Hello, I'm Carly Dearborn, archivist for the Ohio Public Policy Archives, which includes the John Glenn Archives. And today I'm in Page Hall, home to the John Glenn College of Public Affairs on the campus of The Ohio State University. Throughout Page Hall, you'll find exhibit cases featuring items from the John Glenn Archives. This series of videos will explore the documents and treasures featured in the ground floor exhibit cases. I hope you enjoy. In the early 1990s, due to his work on the Senate Special Committee on Aging, Senator John Glenn began noticing parallels between the human aging process and some of the negative symptoms experienced by astronauts exposed to the weightlessness of space. Glenn started meeting with NASA officials on this topic in 1995 and participated in an aging and spaceflight conference held in February 1997. A basic consensus emerged from these meetings. To learn more about the possible connections between aging and weightlessness, NASA needed to send an older individual into space. Glenn saw himself as the ideal candidate. In January 1998, NASA announced the selection of Glenn as a payload specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery mission STSS-95, scheduled for launch in late October. John Glenn spent the next 9 months commuting between his duties in Washington, D.C. and his NASA mission training in Houston, Texas. The public responded overwhelmingly with support for NASA's decision to send Glenn into space once again. As in 1962, after his Friendship 7 spaceflight, Glenn found himself the recipient of thousands of letters from both children and adults writing to express their thoughts on his latest endeavor. As a 77-year-old astronaut and the oldest person to ever travel in space, Glenn became an inspiration to senior citizens and an example of how age and activity need not be exclusive. The Space Shuttle Discovery launched into orbit on October 29, 1998 for a 9-day mission. During the mission, the 7 crew members used a SpaceHab module to conduct more than 80 experiments, released and then retrieved a Spartan satellite built to study the sun and solar winds, and tested hardware slated for use in later shuttle missions to service the Hubble Space Telescope. In addition to his duties as a payload specialist, John Glenn underwent a series of medical tests prior to, during, and after the spaceflight. NASA designed the tests to monitor for various medical conditions, such as osteoporosis, muscle loss, and immune system suppression, commonly suffered by astronauts due to the absence of gravity. Other experiments tested Glenn's balance and perception, his protein metabolism, and his heart and blood flow. Glenn wore a harness during many of his nights in space to monitor sleep disorders, another common problem in space travel. After a successful mission totaling 134 orbits, Discovery touched down at Cape Canaveral on November 7, 1998. I hope you enjoyed touring the exhibit space and learning more about the lives of John and Annie Glenn. If you'd like to learn more, we invite you to visit the archives and the exhibit here at the John Glenn College of Public Affairs on Ohio State's campus. Until then, you can visit the archives online at go.osu.edu/JohnGlennArchives, where you can explore the collection through digitized oral history interviews, photographs, and artifacts.